Hello and welcome to Miss Media TV. Well, there's no denying that as a country we've really been going through a lot. We've seen testimony at Madlanga Commission as well as Parliament's ad hoc committee. And today we are speaking about that ad hoc committee and Bheki Cele. It was his first day of testimony and he did not leave any stone unturned. He really came out all guns blazing. And perhaps the most notable thing he did was really throw Senzo Mchunu under the bus, and he does not seem apologetic about it. So the first thing he said was that he does not believe shutting down that task team was a good idea. He says the political killings task team is a very important task team. He says because it was formed by the interministerial committee, that's how it should have been shut down. He also says there should have been consultation with Masemola, which we know never happened, according to Masemola, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and Senzo Mchunu's testimony. So Bheki Cele said he was shocked when he saw that letter disbanding the team, and then he went into the details of why Mchunu said he disbanded the team, starting off with the budget issue. Bheki Cele says, yes, of course, this team does use a lot of money. However, there are other teams around the country that use a lot more money. He gave two examples, starting with the Thunder team, which deploys around 200 officers to the Western Cape, and it costs about 800 rand a night for these officers to stay in a hotel. So looking at just that cost, we already know that this costs a lot more than the political killings task team. He also spoke about another team that he says is very expensive, which is Operation Valamkoti. So he was essentially questioning why shut down the political killings task team if these other operations around the country are still running. He also says, contrary to what Senzo Mchunu is saying, he says this task team is operating fully legally and there's nothing illegal about it. So this is the first thing that Bheki Cele said, and we knew from that point onwards that he was really going to disagree with Senzo Mchunu. But the interesting thing about it is that both men are from the ANC, so it would also be very interesting to see how the members of parliament who are going to question Cele, who are members of the ANC, are going to handle this situation. Are they going to lean more towards Mchunu, or are they going to lean more towards Cele? So that is a very interesting dynamic there. Cele also spoke about Mkhwanazi's now infamous press briefing from 6 July, and he said a lot of what Mkhwanazi said was said before. It's not the first time. So essentially admitting that there are problems within law enforcement. But he also said there are problems in the judiciary, there are problems in the NPA, and he said that he hoped everyone would look at this situation as a holistic problem that causes issues. And he also did not waste time to speak about the animal. You may be wondering, what animal? Well, he says the animal of bail. He says bail is a huge issue in South Africa. He even made some examples by saying that people get bail upon bail, so they continue to commit crimes. He spoke about one man who had over 43 cash in transit heists, and he says this man got bail 5 times, and every time he got released, he went and he committed more crimes and more crimes. So essentially just saying that this does not make sense. Bheki Cele also says in prisons in South Africa is where most crimes are planned. He says there was even one man in one prison who had 19 rounds of ammunition, and when this ammunition was found on him, he was just waiting for a gun. So really, Cele showing us that these problems are not only within SAPS. He says they are within law enforcement as a whole, and he hopes that they can be dealt with in a way that will help every part of that cycle to be cleaned up, so that people who commit crimes actually get brought to book. So that was very interesting, to hear from Cele. He also then went on to say he wants to admit that there are corrupt police officers, but there are also corrupt prosecutors. And he says he wants people to know that by disbanding the task team, it doesn't really solve any problem, and it doesn't really mean just because the team is temporary, it should be disbanded before it meets its mandate. He said task teams may be bound by time, but they are also bound by mandate. And once the mandate is over, of course, they can be disbanded, but one cannot justify disbanding this task team, especially right now when political killings are still rife in many different parts of the country. Cele also told us something which was very interesting. He says when he first heard about the disbandment of this team, he actually approached Mchunu and told him that he does not think it's a good idea, but he says Mchunu actually told him that the team will be disbanded regardless of what he says. But Bheki Cele did not leave it there. He also went to the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, and he asked Cyril Ramaphosa to convene a meeting between Cele and Mchunu, but he says nothing ever came of it, so he just let it go. But you see there how strongly he felt about this particular disbandment of this team, because he believes it still has a lot of work to do, and he believes that it has achieved quite a lot. Cele also disputed what Mchunu said when he said this team is not necessary anymore, because he says there are still lots of political killings. He says there's actually a municipality in Nongoma where the top managers were arrested because they were even paying contracted killers from municipal accounts. So really showing there that the problem still persists, and it does not then make sense to close down this political killing stars team. Then, as we know, there have been many allegations about different people being accused of knowing Cat Matlala, Katie Molefe, and also Brown Mogotsi, but mostly Cat Matlala. And Cele was very, very clear. He said he knows Cat, and he doesn't only know him, he says he knows him very well, and that he's met him on several occasions.
But you know Cat Matlala?
Very well.
Okay.
I think
When did you first meet Cat Matlala?
I met Cat Matlala in December last year,
2024,
2024. That's the
before
first
the directive.
That's the first time I met Cat Matlala. December 2024. I can't remember the date, but it was after the raid.
The raid on the 8th or the 6th, the 6th of
Yeah.
December.
Because that's one thing that brought him to me.
So what is there a connection between the raid on 6th December, where we know
There are,
that PKTT
there are issues that he raised to me about the raid.
So can you tell us? Well, first tell us how it is that you came to meet him. Did you know him before that?
No, I didn't know him before that, and I don't know how it happened, because the people of his stature, I would know about them.
And he says at this time he met Cat because Cat wanted to discuss two things with him. The first thing that Cat Matlala wanted to discuss with him was the fact that there had been a raid at Matlala's home. Bheki Cele says Cat Matlala spoke to him about two issues that he had a problem with, and he was hoping that Cele could intervene somehow. He says the first issue is that there'd been a raid at Matlala's home, and we now know that was 6 December. And now Matlala said that in that raid, he was actually told by Shadrach Sibia to write an affidavit and accuse the TOS team that came to his house of stealing some Rolex watches and jewelry. In fact, according to Cele, that theft never happened. But Cele believes that Matlala was made to write this affidavit so that it can be against Dumisani Khumalo, so that then Shadrach Sibia could then discipline Khumalo and get rid of him. And Cele says because he gets along with Khumalo and he believes Khumalo may not be a perfect human being, but he is a very good officer. Cele says he wasn't going to let him go down, which is why he continued to talk to Matlala. He also told Matlala to go and speak to Khumalo before pulling this affidavit scheme through, because Cele says his priority was to make sure that nothing bad happens to Khumalo. And then the second thing that Cele says Matlala wanted to speak to him about, he says Matlala made a confession. He told him that he had met with Brown Mogotsi and Senzo Mchunu.
He raised two issues. He said Mabonga must bring him to me because he realizes that he's being abused, or he's being used for the political games that he do not understand. Firstly, he said he has met Minister Mchunu, him and Brown Mogotsi, three of them. And they spoke about him because he's got money through the tender, him to fund his project of becoming either a president or deputy president. He didn't know. Myself, I didn't know which project was it. So that's that. But
so just to be clear, so He's telling you that he met with Mogotsi and with Minister
The minister,
Mchunu,
yes.
and it was about the funding
Of the
for-
project of
the
becoming
project.
a president or deputy president. Okay. This is Cat telling me why he wanted to meet me. But what puzzled him there, for him to want to meet me, he was told by the minister that we'll work together so long we don't come close to Cele and Zuma. I don't know why it mixes me with Zuma. But it looks like that's what he said, that don't come close to Cele and Zuma, so we'll work well with. So that's why he says he realized that there is a game, some political games, hence wanted to see me.
Now, this is very problematic because in his testimony, Mchunu completely denied knowing Cat Matlala. In fact, he brought an affidavit right from Cat Matlala and his wife saying that Cat Matlala does not know Mchunu. This affidavit was really a bone of contention in Parliament because MPs were surprised that the Minister of Police could actually go to somebody who's in prison and ask him for an affidavit. And Julius Malema actually raised it. He said, especially because Cat Matlala is actually accused of trying to swindle the SAPS, and he did not understand how Mchunu thought it was proper to get an affidavit. Julius actually said he thought that this was really unethical to bring that affidavit in. Nonetheless, now Cele says Mchunu actually knows Matlala and they've met, but you might be wondering, why would they meet? Well, according to Cele, Matlala was going to bankroll Senzo Mchunu's presidential or deputy presidential campaign, and this is what they met to discuss. And it sounds like there have been several meetings that they went through about this particular issue. It is not quite clear where it ended up, but it does seem like it may not have ended up well. But Cele says this is what he was talking to Matlala mostly about. And then, of course, there are those 10 missed calls that Cele allegedly gave to Matlala. And Cele says, yes, it's very common for him to give people a lot of missed calls. And guess why? He says he's probably the only person in South Africa who has never ever texted. He has never sent an SMS to anyone. He has never sent a WhatsApp to anyone. In fact, one of the MPs who was in Parliament took out his phone and he was showing it to another MP to say these are all the unanswered messages that they have sent to Bheki Cele, and he really does not answer messages on text. And he says that's why he phones people, and if they don't respond, he phones them until he finds them. So he says although those calls were pitched as being frantic, he says they really were not, based on how he does things. And then he also had to respond to the times that he's been said to have stayed at Matlala's penthouse. And yes, he admitted that he did stay at Matlala's penthouse on 2 occasions, and asked why did he do it. He says, well, I'm not a minister, I'm not in cabinet anymore, I don't have to declare anything, I'm a pensioner, I'm sitting at home, I'm not working, so if somebody gives me a freebie, I take it because I'm not working for the government and I didn't have to declare. He did say if he was still working for government, he might have declared. But also outside of the gesturing, he also did say that at the time, Cat Matlala was not even in prison. His contract had not been cancelled with the SAPS. And what he read in the news was really faint allegation, and he had no reason to suspect anything sinister to do with him. So that was the main thing that he said around Cat Matlala. In terms of Katiso Molefe and Brown Mogotsi, he said he does not know them, and that is where that one ends, but absolutely admitting that he has some sort of communication and relationship with Cat Matlala. And then he discussed many other issues around the task team, around getting along with other people within the SAPS. He did say that he's worked with Shadrach Sibia for a long time, and he did not know some of the things that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said. He also said he worked with Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi for a long time as well, and they work well together. He was also asked about Fani Masemola, whether he has a relationship with Fani Masemola, and he said they don't know each other's families, they don't visit each other, but they work very well together. So that was quite interesting to hear. But again, he kept on going back to the Senzo Mchunu issue and really reiterating that he does not agree at all with what Senzo Mchunu did, and he really tried to speak to him but could not get through to him. And one more thing that Cele said, he said one of the things that really shocked him a lot when he met Cat Matlala, they actually actually met at Hangwani Maumela's place, but that's a whole other story for another day. That story still has not been delved into, so perhaps we'll hear more about that. Nonetheless, they met with Cat Matlala, and Cele says he was shocked to find out that some of the people who were there as Matlala's protectors looked familiar. So Cele says he knew some of these people to be members of the task force, or rather former members of the task force, and he says there were 23 of them that are now employed by Cat Matlala. He says this really shocked him because it costs government R1 million to train just one task force member, and he feels like the government is training these people for them to go work in the private sector, and he really wants them to come back into policing for the government, where the government actually invested on them. So that is also something that Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi has said in part when he was speaking to Nkabinde in that recorded phone call that Mchunu had submitted into testimony. So yes, essentially that is where we are with Bheki Cele's testimony. Definitely very, very explosive. And by the way, please do remember to subscribe, share, and comment on this video. And I'll see you next time when we cover the next episode of Miss Media TV.